first step in most interior design projects is to survey the project room. When I say survey, I mean creating a rough plan and recording all of the measurements needed to draw up an accurate scale drawing of the space. If you have architect's drawings, you could use these, although you really should check the measurements because buildings aren't always built exactly or accurately. If you don't have existing plans, or if they're too small and you can't scale them up, then surveying the room is the first step in drafting your own plans. Step 1. Look around the room, notice its shape and any nooks and crannies, any irregularities. Now this room is quite complex. It's got angles and alcoves. Step 2. You'll need a few sheets of paper just to allow for mistakes, and squared paper is best, along with a portable hard surface to work on, so for example a clipboard or a book. Step 3. Draw an outline of the room in plan view, as if you were looking down into the room from high up above. Try to make it roughly proportionate and make sure that every corner and detail is there. Normally I do this very lightly, first of all in pencil, and then when I'm happy with it I draw over the pencil outline with a black pen. I draw the outline to fill the page, but I also need to leave space around this because in the next step, which is step 4, I'm going to be adding dimension lines. Usually 2 for each side of the room. One is for the overall dimension, the full width or length, and the second is for the incremental measurements that make this up. Once I'm done, I add up the increments to make sure that their total is exactly the same as the overall measurement that I've also taken. In this case, I've only got one line on the right-hand side because there aren't any details on this wall, it's just a plain straight run. In step 5, I also add a few limited dimension lines within the plan to make sure that I capture any important details that would otherwise be missed out. So for example, details around the fireplace. Step 6 is the actual measuring. In an ideal world, you'd have somebody along to help you. One of you would measure and the other one would record, but of course you can also easily do this on your own. This example is in metric, and in a minute I'll show you an example in imperial. Watch out for cases where rooms aren't completely square, which actually is most of the time. If you have conflicting measurements, one bigger and one smaller, it's good practice always to use the smaller one, because this helps you to avoid ordering anything that's going to be too big to fit in. So, still on step 6, here's the imperial measurement example. And note that I've also recorded the ceiling height, so that's the dimension shown as CH in the centre of the page. For some uses of plans, so for example if we're making a lighting plan or ordering flooring, it's also helpful to know the overall area of the room, and you can roughly work this out too. I've added this information in green. And here's a quick look again at the metric example. Step 7 is to create some simple sketch elevations. These are two-dimensional flat views of the walls, just as you see them when you're standing inside the room. Now, the reason that I take these is they're very useful for getting a better idea of how the room's going to look once the design details have been added. Also, in the case of a lighting plan, or if you're specifying or calculating materials, so furniture, paint or wallpaper, you can use the elevations to show professionals the heights where you want installations to start and stop. The next step is to add dimensions too to the elevations, just the same as we did for the plan. So 2 sets each side, an overall height measurement, and of course the incremental details that get us there. And I also take measurements of all the furniture in the room so that I can make movable templates for each piece. That way I can try out different furniture layouts without physically heaving heavy furniture around the room. For a lighting plan, you do need to have all your furniture sketched into the preliminary drawing so that you can ensure that your general task and accent lighting ends up in exactly the right locations. And voila, the survey is complete.